Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 35 of the TumblingSaber podcast, numéro 35 of the TumblingSaber podcast. There's a quick little tip of the hat to our listeners in France, and a big shout out to the rest of you out there, wherever you may be. We appreciate having your ears for the next little bit, and I also appreciate having these guys, these two fine gents who set aside their time every Sunday to talk about the Star Wars galaxy. James, how's it going, man?
Doing terrific, Kyle.
Awesome. And Corey, I saw you earlier today. I know you're doing all right. Maybe a little sunburned, but how about an update? Hey.
Yeah, I'm all set up tonight. I'm ready to go. We got a new format tonight. The Gremlins will never, ever have their way with us again. I'm all wired up everywhere. There's wires everywhere. We're good to go.
Don't pick a fight with them.
Yeah.
Don't pick a fight with the Gremlins. And
get cocky, kid.
I don't think it's a hard and fast rule, but I would think more wires equals more potential problems. But so far, I think we're okay. I think the Gremlins are at bay, locked in their cages. So, knock on wood. Hopefully, we're going to be good to go this week.
You guys are tempting fate by saying stuff like that, but let's do it and see how it works out.
Yeah, no. If things go wrong, then I'm completely blaming Corey.
Fair enough. Me too.
Let's just get to Star Wars then. Come on, moving on.
Kick the can down the road. So how's it going, guys? I feel like it's been a long time since we've done this.
Too long. We should do this more often. We got to come up with the second show.
Yeah, our after hours podcast. Well, you know what? It's been an extra day though this week. That's why it feels long. We did last Saturday, didn't we?
True.
You're correct. Yes.
So, yeah.
I took off to go for a little camping trip. So yeah, we did record a bit early last week, but still, it feels like unnaturally long.
It's funny as well too. James and I last week were kind of pouting while you were camping. We were like conversing, just basically saying, "I wish we were podcasting tonight."
Oh yeah, the Sunday it felt unnatural not to be podcasting.
So they say it takes 21 days to form a habit, and we've been doing this show now for 35 solid weeks. Once a week for 35 weeks, but I think the habit has taken hold.
Yeah, agreed. I wasn't in it from the onset, but from the early onset, I got involved, and I kept asking Kyle, and he kept asking me, I'm like, yeah, have me on the show again. I have stuff to say, and he was just like, why do you want to be on the show? I'm like, I don't know, because I enjoy it. He's like, okay, come on the show.
And we're glad to have you, Corey.
Yeah.
You're like that kid that comes knocking on the door with his hand out looking for some food.
Please, sir, may I have some more?
Yeah, there you go. Whatever that kid's name was.
Isn't that Oliver Twist?
It sounds like it to me.
And I believe you're right, James.
But it also makes me think of The Simpsons for some reason.
What the dickens, yeah.
So, boys, it was a really spectacular week. This whole week off, I was kind of unplugged a little bit, so I'm not completely up to speed of what was going on. Although I did try to put together a bit of an outline for this show. We may end up going all over the place, but I'm definitely looking forward to doing our episode 8 opening crawls. We got a couple of good submissions. We've got our own to deal with, and a few tidbits of Star Wars news to go through before we get to that. But I'm also afraid we're on the edge of the abyss again now with San Diego Comic-Con in the rear view, and of course Star Wars Celebration done with. I feel like we're just about on the precipice of a long stretch of no Star Wars news. So these next few items here are going to have to tide us over, I think. And we'll start that with Disney. They've those stiff, button-up, stodgy buzzkills. They've put the kibosh on any future Star Wars parodies from the Family Guy team. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of bummed about. I'm not surprised, but I am legitimately bummed about that because I thought the Blue Harvest and something Dark Side and It's a Trap. I thought the three of them were fantastic.
Totally agree.
Corey, where do you stand?
Yeah,
totally
absolutely.
Agree. I have a lot to say about this actually. Like, I was in the same page as you. Basically, I was really disappointed at first, and it's a little surprising too, but not surprising knowing that it's Disney. I mean, they're running a really tight ship, like Seth MacFarlane had said, and he had a really good relation with LFL. But I mean, it's kind of sad in the sense as well that like Star Wars spoofs were like a part of our childhood because they were kind of ubiquitous in a way. They were everywhere, like with Muppets, Muppet Babies, which are like some of my greatest memories ever. Granted, there was a relationship there with Jim Henson, but also Robot Chicken spoofs are they're just great, man. But I can also see where Disney doesn't want to, you know, cross the line. They don't want to give too much away. Like they want to wait maybe till they've told their story so that people can kind of know and more have a bit of substance to know what they're working with, as opposed to jumping right into it. Like Family Guy had 20 plus years to kind of go over the films and you know poke fun at them a bit. Like Kylo's temper tantrums are a bit of too much bountiful fodder at the moment.
I'll
So
piggyback that idea. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I was going to say sort of the same thing that they're making movies now, and they haven't been doing that, so it was easier to be sort of poked fun at when there's nothing new coming out. You weren't working on stuff. It wasn't a work in progress. It was stuff that was already canned, and if people are going to make fun of it, so be it. It exists. It's out there, and satire is part of it. So I think in the future you'll probably get more of it. But yeah, I agree with Corey. I see why Disney's sort of got their lawyers showing their teeth. But I'll also say this: Seth MacFarlane's a respectful guy and all, but tell Family Guy they can't do something, and should be interesting.
that's true.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they have any ill will. I guess they're kind of bummed about it too because that was like a little bit of a license to print money for them, and I'm sure they had a blast doing it. Um, from Disney's perspective, I can see why they're shutting it down. Not only because of what you guys said that they're currently making movies and they're busy with that, but it seems like the humor, the tone of the Family Guy crew is totally out of sync of for what Disney is, and they would have to share control of the content. It just seems like it's something that Disney would not want to partake in.
Can I
So
can
they
I
just
can I
they,
approach
it's
that
it,
from a different like light? If I'm sort of a marketing person, if I'm Disney and I've got Family Guy marketing my product in a way that I'm never going to market my own product, so it's out there, like that's more exposure, using a sort of a genre or whatever you want to call it, like a style that Disney themselves is never going to use. It's almost like a missed opportunity, no?
I think you're right. I don't know if I'm agreeing with you because I wish they would continue doing it, or if that makes like objective sense. But I think it makes objective sense. It's logical to me that yeah, if you can, it's a different, it's an entirely different set of humor that you'd be pitching at, and a different demographic in some respects. So why not just expand your reach that much further and continue to haul in those people that might like a more blue sense of humor.
Yeah, in a total like you know marketing perspective, you get to sort of license, reap the rewards of licensing, and but deflect all blame. Oh, you didn't like that joke? Well, that's not Disney. That we didn't do that.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, for now, and for valid reasons for the moment. Like, who's to say if Family Guy still exists in 10, 15 years that they won't allow them to do it then?
and that's true. That is certainly true. Although there's, I don't know if that would work so well, only because the original Star Wars trilogy is so timeless that you can do that parody of those three movies at any point and make it hilarious. Whereas the Force Awakens, 10, 15 years from now, might be a footnote,
True.
relatively speaking.
Yeah. Just
And
getting
parodies
back
too.
to
I mean, from a legal, sorry to interrupt, but from a legal standpoint, I mean, you talk to your lawyers and you see which words you can't use. But maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think Mel Brooks goes and gets permission from everybody before he makes fun of movies. Spaceballs being my prime example. Like if people want to make parodies about Star Wars, there's only so much Star Wars can do in a legal way to stop that from happening.
Yeah, no, parodies I think are fall under a certain section where you're allowed to do parodies and people can't really come at you. So like you said before, James, if Disney telling the Family Guy guys no, and we'll see how that turns out. You're right. Maybe they say, "Oh yeah, okay." And so they don't use Han Solo and Rey. They call them something different but
San
clearly
Holo.
identifiable,
Yeah, exactly.
and they make it so much worse.
Well, that's the
You know what I
thing.
mean?
You can maybe incur some wrath when you're when you try to be too imposing with silly rules.
Yeah, and for sure Disney would probably try and have that shut down, but parodies are hard to shut down, is my understanding. That there's certain creative license that you're allowed to do as long as you're not like full on ripping off the material
That's
or
it.
the trademarks.
That's it.
So I think everybody's kind of bummed. I can't think of anybody who's like high-fiving that there's not going to be any more of these.
No, but we always have the internet too. There's definitely going to be some fan stuff out there that's hilarious. But no, it's true. Seth MacFarlane. It's a big production, and it had lots of potential.
Well, and I'm sure what a lot of execs miss is the fact that if you really watch the parodies that they did, it shows what a true fan Seth MacFarlane was. Like you can't make fun of something in that way without really knowing the ins and outs. You know?
Absolutely, and that probably applies to the entire crew. Seth Green was a huge fan, and he
Yeah,
had relationships, I'm sure, with if not with George Lucas himself, then with people involved at Lucasfilm. It probably runs up and down the food chain there that they know each other and they had sort of a handshake agreement that this is we're going to do this, we're going to have fun with it. But anyway, like Corey said, things can change in the future. Maybe Disney loosens up a little bit and says, okay, fine, you can do something with this particular property. We can only hope.
we got to touch back on Muppet Babies for a sec.
Oh, do we really?
I got to ask James. James, you remember those episodes? Were you too
I
old at
definitely
that point?
watched no, I definitely watched Muppet Babies. It wasn't on my hit list. But it was on my peripheral because I was the oldest of three, so I had like younger siblings. So I was definitely aware of it and for sure watched more than one episode from beginning to end.
Well, you were making fun of your younger siblings while they watched.
Not even. I think I remember sort of enjoying that show.
No, it's kind of like it was '86, man.
Yeah,
Even
so I was 10.
earlier.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. They had all these like Star Wars like crossover like stories where they were imagining, like they were awesome.
Oh, it's true. Now that you say that, you just sort of flashed me back. I remember some of those side stories, and I love the Muppets to begin with. So it was, the Muppet Babies was easier to transition into.
It's funny you say that because I love the Muppets too, and there's been a couple of feature-length movies over the last 5 years or so that were sort of semi well received, but I don't think it really picked up with kids. And then they were back on TV, and did you know about that?
Yes, I
Yeah,
watched the first 4 or 5 of them. I was very excited about it.
Yeah, I was stoked about it, and I wanted to love it, and I didn't.
Well, the
I
style
thought
they
it was
took was,
okay at
yeah,
best.
they tried to do a modern, a modern day sort of style show with a broken down fourth wall, and you know, I think it was sort of like The
yeah.
Office style. I don't know, it didn't really work like the variety style show that they had in the 70s, 80s.
Did you guys see Dave Grohl's drum off with Animal?
That was amazing.
It feels like Dave Grohl was just born to do something with the Muppets.
Yeah,
Like,
Agreed.
uh, anyway, I feel bad because the Muppets should be on TV somewhere. I'm sure some people disagree that they think they're stupid and obnoxious and dated past their expiry date. But I still think there's place for them somewhere that they should continue with almost with the same 70s, 80s style variety show that they used to do. I think there's place for that somewhere.
Agreed. I love it.
I love it too, but it's such a hard sell with everything that's out there these days.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much vying for our attention, right? Part of the problem that I had with the latest iteration is that I kind of need to get back to Daredevil, or you know, man, my PVR is full of Walking Dead, or Fear the Walking Dead, or Marvel's Agents of Shield, or something is there. I got to get through this, and if it's not pulling me in, I have something else waiting for me that will. So, you're right, Corey. There's just we have too many great choices these days.
But the Muppets are a classic and they cannot be forgotten.
No, and anyway, like, we'll just wrap it up there with for the Muppets. But I feel like they are sort of on their way out again when they had a good chance to come back.
Yeah, the show was canceled on ABC. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, no, it fell flat on its face. Anywho, that's enough about that. Uh, Earlier this past week, some kind of not really all that surprising news came along that the New York Daily News, bit of a tabloid, but news is news, I guess, that Alden Ehrenreich, our new Han Solo, has signed a three-picture deal with Disney, which everybody's kind of reading from that this means a Han Solo trilogy. And then you saw a bunch of think pieces pop up on the web that, aside from the clickbait, that uh, no, you can't do this. It's too much. You can't do a Han Solo trilogy. This is franchise fatigue. You don't need to go there with that character. And I mean, I have a very simple personal rule when it comes to the whole philosophy of franchise fatigue, and I might write a 10-word blog post about it. And to me, franchise fatigue is when you are personally fed up of it, not when some collective says it's too much. Like if you feel like it's too much for you. Tune out. You don't have nobody on the face of the earth is going to make you watch. But I want to get your guys' take. Is a Han Solo trilogy franchise fatigue? Is that too much, or is that what the doctor ordered here?
You take it first, Corey.
Anyway, all right. Well, the article we had read was a Star Wars Solo trilogy would be the very definition of franchise fatigue. And right off the bat, I kind of agreed in a way. I had very mixed emotions. I'm going to throw this out there right now. I just thought of it before I forget, but signing a three-picture deal with Disney doesn't necessarily mean it's with Star Wars. You know, it could be indie, maybe, but whatever. It's all rumors anyhow.
Right. There's yeah. Disney hasn't confirmed it, so we don't know. And you're 100% right. It could be one Han Solo movie. It could be a cameo in another Star Wars standalone movie, and it could be a role in an Indiana Jones movie, and that's it. There's your three-picture deal.
Yeah, that would be.
Uh,
But no, man, like we have so much universe to explore. Like, don't. Why would you get right into this? Like, that would basically mean, like, think of it. If you really think about it, it would mean that we'd have a, a Han Solo trilogy in, or a movie in 2018 and 2020 as well. Do you really want that right now? Is that what you want as a fan? Like, it would automatically kind of have to mean that, no? Like, this guy's gonna be aging as well. And they have so much story to tell. Like, cram it into one story and make it awesome. Like, we got Chewie the Falcon, Sabak, like grifting and smuggling, Lando, Jabba, maybe Boba, and don't pull a Hobbit and like milk it. Like, take this small story kind of and like turn it into like a trilogy. It's a
Damn,
big
Corey,
universe.
you
Like,
keep stealing all my stuff. I was gonna say exactly that. My initial instinct was when I heard that the trilogy was. I sort of felt like I felt when I heard they were gonna make The Hobbit into a trilogy. I thought, oh, yeesh, how much Han Solo is there? But um, I'm gonna take the other side of the coin anyways, and say that if you look at it this way, um, the original trilogy was Luke's story, three movies about Luke. The prequels were Anakin's story, three movies about Anakin. I think we're getting Rey's story, three movies about Rey. And all these three movies about sort of one person's story have been awesome. So why wouldn't three movies about Han be awesome?
I'm not saying
that is a completely valid take because I mean we look at what we know about Han Solo, that he freed Chewie from the from slavery, and he won the Falcon from Lando, and he did this and he did that, the Kessel Run, you name it. But that's not all he did. If that's not, if Disney or Lucasfilm wants him to do more, there's a whole galaxy of possibilities for this character. And I've always said that now that Disney has taken over, that we're probably going to get more Han Solo going forward from 2015 when The Force Awakens came, going forward into the future. We'll get more Han Solo now than we have in the rearview mirror.
I'd see
So
that
it
coming in more in the form of literature and stuff, though. Like, yes, we got the movie coming, granted, but it's a big
oh it's I think
universe.
it's coming in all forms. Right now we're getting the 5-part comic miniseries, and we're getting at least one standalone. And I see no reason if I guess you could always say this: if it does really really well, they'll do more. And I think that's sort of the open and shut case for that. If they do one movie and it does exceedingly well, they're going to greenlight more. I think it's as simple as that.
It's just
I
kind of
agree with
odd to
that.
me.
Yeah.
Like, I agree with you too, but we all said the same thing kind of about Rogue One in a way too. Like saying, if it does really well, then maybe they'll make a Rogue Two, whatever it is. But they have so many different genres they can explore, and so many different characters and time periods. And I guess whatever, they got all the time in the world to do it, but I don't
To go
know.
back to
It's
something
just
you said, Kyle, about what Han Solo's done so far, and if they want him to do more, they can. Maybe they've already written. Maybe he's already done more, and specifically like there's a big gap between what Han Solo did between at the end of Episode 6 and what we just saw in Episode 7. So maybe one of the you know some of the storyline they want to explore is those missing years, and that could be really interesting. We don't know what they're going to tell us happened, how he fathered both Rey and Ren um, with different women or whatever. We
I
don't.
love how you just slip that in every week, and if you say it enough, eventually we're going to believe it, right?
Well, you can believe it or not. A fact is a fact, whether or not you believe it. Um, but you know what I mean? Like maybe they're going to tell us some Han stuff in the next couple of movies that we're really going to find out more about.
Right, because in the comics they introduced a wife. Now, maybe she's a bit of a head case, and he claims that it was never really his wife. But there's a story there, and I would bet for sure that this woman, her name is Sana, is going to show up in a Han Solo movie. I think she has to at this point.
there you go. That's another one
Somebody
to add
who
to it.
claims someone who claims to be your wife, whether it's a legit marriage or not, that's obviously something major, and that's probably going to be uh, at least explored somewhat in a standalone movie, in my opinion.
What do you think
But
about what I had said earlier in the sense that if they do make a trilogy, would it necessarily have to be in 2018 and 2020, or can they stretch it to like 2018 then 2022 or something, or 2020 then 2022, whatever it is.
I think they've got a pretty broad view of their future, and I think it could absolutely be if they sign him to three movies, it could be 2018, 2022, and 2025. Really, I think it could
Well,
be that far in the future.
you know what? We That being the case, James, we might not get our Obi-Wan movie anyone time soon.
Depends how many. Yeah, yeah. Who knows how they're gonna release, like in what order they're gonna put out these movies. Like, are they gonna give us if they do a Han Solo trilogy? Will they give us all three in a row without giving us any other spin-off movies, or will they give us Han one and then Obi-Wan story and then Han two? Like, who knows?
How
well, yeah,
cool
because
how cool would that be if they filmed the movie in the year like 2018 and then premiered it in like 2025 or something, They just shot the footage so characters don't age and just put it in a
well,
vault.
I don't think that's crazy. Not with this group anymore, because like James said, they've got such a long view of this whole thing now. that they can absolutely do this. There's such a long game in effect
And people are doing stuff like
that
that. It's the trendy thing to do in Hollywood. There was that movie Boyhood that was filmed over 10
Yeah,
years, and Malkovich did some crazy project recently. Did you hear this? Called I think the movie's called 100 or something. Anyways, they filmed a movie and vaulted it, and they're
yeah,
not
I
going to
heard
release
about
it for
this.
100 years.
Yeah, I heard about that. I think it was
But
for
that's
like,
crazy.
alcohol too,
I
for
didn't
a
read
certain
much
type
about the
of
details of it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so it makes total sense to me that they if they are so sure of the stories they want to tell now, they could absolutely film something in 2016 that they know is only going to appear in 20 or 2025 or so. That wouldn't shock me.
No, and they can film it, and if the story changes for whatever reason, they scrap it. But if you film enough stuff, some of it will be usable, right?
Of course, yeah. I, I don't think anything is out of the realm of possibility now. And like going back to something that on Corey's point, to his point, I've always said that at some point I'm pretty sure that even though we know we're going to get episodes 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, we don't know when. So I think they could always. I've always said that they'll probably give the episodic saga a break.
yeah,
And what do you do? But they're not going to give the movies a break. They
agreed.
will. They could fill that space with standalone movies for 4 or 5 years if they have to.
And we don't know
So
what
you,
Disney's big picture is either. What their vision of the future is. For them, maybe a perfect world is July blockbuster, Christmas release. July blockbuster, Christmas release. Maybe that's the machine they're building towards.
yeah, because right now we're at one Star Wars movie a year,
That's right.
but Marvel's at 2 to 3 a year.
So why Disney must be looking at that model, saying, well, that you know, more movies is more money, right?
Yeah, can we shove another one in there without cannibalizing their other stuff because they own so much now that they wouldn't want to they wouldn't want a Star Wars movie to have to go up against an Avengers movie.
No,
They would
and
just be
no,
cannibalizing their.
for sure, and they've got number crunchers sort of looking at you know what the forecast would be, putting this against that, and someone's crunching a lot of numbers and on a calculator, sort of figuring out schedules for release on all this stuff. It's certainly well calculated because it's important, but
Yeah, there's one set of nerds crunching numbers to tell another set of nerds when they can make a movie. So for a third set of nerds who want to sit there and watch the movie.
Or vice
if
versa. It could be them saying, "Here's the movies we're making, like make it work." Just like a hockey schedule, you know. Here's the games, figure it out. Oh, Shania Twain's playing tonight. I don't care. Figure it out.
yeah,
A
well,
Shania Twain
that's a
reference.
good
Wow.
reference, Shania Twain. Well done.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and you say cannibalize, but at the same time, you're competing with yourself. There's worse things out there. If you've got all the big movies in the theater, and people have to choose between you know Marvel and Disney, or Marvel and Star Wars, that's a choice Disney likes.
True. That is absolutely true. Now, what about the perspective on this? That's the Force Awakens especially, and obviously what looks like will happen again in Rogue One. They've made a push to diversify the cast, right? So the two main leads in the Force Awakens are John Boyega, a black guy, and Daisy Ridley, the female lead. And we're gonna have Jyn Erso as the female lead in Rogue One. Now, is it going backwards a little bit if you do a Han Solo trilogy with another white male, or is that where you just say, okay, now you just build around him with some major diverse characters? Where do you think that is there some legit criticism there?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, Lando's one of his best friends until Han somehow gets the Falcon away from him.
I'm going to say no. I don't think so because, and maybe I'm alone on this. Han's a pre-existing popular character. I would say maybe it would be going backwards if they were trying to promote, their next star was, white bread, traditional Hollywood actor. Maybe that's I don't even think personally that's going backwards. Maybe that's a sidestep. Not every new character you promote has to be diversified. Um, I don't think, but I think this falls in that category even less because Han's already your super well loved, super popular character. So exploiting a character you already know is popular, I don't think is taking a step backwards personally.
I agree. It's almost redundant in a way if you think about it because like his best friends basically I can see him crying in a corner every time Leia calls him a walking carpet. Like that's like that right there basically shows that there is no race really for him. He's just a cool dude, just out there like willing to accept anyone kind of.
Yeah, you're right. I think of the criticism that Marvel took, and I guess by extension Disney, when they announced that Spider-Man was the Spider-Man Homecoming, which I think is coming out next year, if I'm not mistaken. Meanwhile, you have people who are waiting for example, a Captain Marvel movie, or what's taken so long with a Black Widow standalone movie.
Apparently, they cast
Captain
a Captain
Marvel,
Marvel this week, eh?
Captain Marvel was announced, yeah.
Right,
Did,
no, now it's been announced, but like they've been waiting on this on Captain Marvel forever. They've been waiting on Black Panther forever.
oh, come on, we haven't even
But
gotten
here
our
comes
standalone Wonder Woman movie until now. I mean, that's a character I can't believe didn't get her own movie until 2016. That's ridiculous. 2017.
Well, exactly. That's exactly the mentality I'm speaking of. There's a lot of people out there who were very vocal about why are you fast tracking Spider-Man that
Again.
we've had again. We've got the three Tobey Maguires, the two Andrew Garfields. Why are you fast tracking that character again when we're still waiting on Captain Marvel, Black Panther, a Black Widow movie? Like, and of course, it defaults to the same straight white male. You're pandering to those guys again. Um,
He
so
has more to
that's
do
what I
with.
mean.
He's a bigger character within the universe, and he's going to play a bigger role within future movies. Like he had quite a big role in Civil War.
Right, but that there's two sides to that coin, I think, is
Oh, yeah, for
for
sure.
business
Spider-Man's one of the
reasons
most
you pull
iconic
in.
of all time. Yeah, no, for sure. You could defend the point of making Spider-Man movies make sense. You can't make enough of them. People just love Spider-Man. He's top three. Disagree? Best, most popular superheroes of all time. He's top three.
Definitely
Oh,
do not
absolutely agree.
disagree.
So you can't make that movie enough times, really. But um, I get the criticisms in that there are a lot of other good stories out there that haven't been told at all yet. And geez, we've had a lot of Spider-Man.
Exactly. So,
No, I
and
agree.
that's where I'm coming from with this Han Solo thing. Is that we've known this character for going on 40 years. So for the people who want a galaxy like Star Wars to diversify more than it has, um, you know, I don't think I can begrudge those people their complaints. I think they're somewhat legitimate. On the other side, there's still just as many people who love Han Solo and want more of that. And the, like the business reality of it is going to trump everything, I think, in that he's totally bankable. And so you get, buckle up. You're going to get a steady diet of Han Solo.
Possible. It's very possible.
Yep. So anyway, I think we've beaten that topic to death.
Well, I'm
But
gonna I'm
let's
gonna beat it.
stick
Just
sort of.
I've got one more swing to take. As you were saying that, the cynic in me sort of took hold, and I imagined being a fly on the wall in the executive's office when they were talking about the how to market Han Solo. Before they killed him off, they were like, no, current day Han Solo too old. Let's axe that guy, and then let's sign some hot young new guy and make more Han Solo movies. Like that conversation happened for sure.
And high fives were had.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And the sound of cash registers sort of just echoing over the PA speakers in the conference room. For sure,
Everybody gave themselves a bonus and they went to lunch.
a 3-hour power lunch. So I mean, sticking somewhat with Mr. Aaron Reich, and I guess we'll pull Hayden Christensen in with that. It was confirmed that neither of those actors will appear in Rogue One. And one of those pieces of news makes me very happy, and the other kind of bums me out a little bit. And James, what do you think? Do you think that they should be in the movie? Or are you bummed to learn that they won't be?
I'm not bummed. I'm not gonna make cheering noises, because I actually sort of feel bad for Hayden Christensen a little bit. I think he's probably a better actor than his legacy will let on. Because I don't know, I think he had some pretty crummy directing and some pretty crappy writing, and I don't think he's probably as bad an actor as he came across in the movies. However, I personally don't need to see any more Hayden Christensen in Star Wars movies, so I'm okay with it.
And I guess that it would you'd feel the same way about Aaron Reich not being in Rogue One.
Well, I don't know. That I'm more indifferent about that. I wouldn't be mad if it happened, but I'm not disappointed it's not going to happen. I'm sort of indifferent, no opinion really, because I don't know at all what the story's going to be, like how it would be relevant. So if it works, that'd be great. But if it's not going to happen, so be it.
Fair. Corey, what do you think? No Aaron Reich in Rogue One. Is that are you happy about that, or are you kind of bummed out?
No, I don't really care to be honest. Like it would have been cool, like I said, maybe to see like him or the Falcon in a background round scene. The only character I really see crossing into this movie would possibly be R2. But yeah, I don't really care. Like I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the trifecta is complete. I don't care. I'm actually kind of glad actually that Aaron Reich is not going to be seen as Han Solo in Rogue One. I thought that even if it was just a cameo or even if something as innocuous as an Easter egg, I just would have been like, come on, like that's just pure fan service. Like you didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
And you
like
know
I
You
was
didn't
what?
have
thinking
to
about it,
shoe.
Yeah, you
like
can't do it
seeing
for his
like
first appearance as Han Solo either. That would be his first shot as this little cameo in this or whatever in this movie. His first shot as Han Solo should be in his own movie.
I would agree, unless it was really really memorable. Like it was really funny or something really signature Han Solo. But yeah, no, I tend to agree. If Han Solo's first appearance should be in a Han Solo movie, not not in some other movie where he just sort of walks past and either may or may not do something funny. But I am a little bit bummed, that Hayden Christensen won't be seen in Rogue One. I was hoping that we would see sort of a battered, broken Vader somehow, and you just even if he had no lines, just to see Christensen's face, just to sort of bridge that gap, and just to keep some consistency. Not that they have a problem with consistency, but just to keep that lineage going. You know what I mean? Just to see his face again, I would have been happy at seeing that. But we're not getting it, so we're all just gonna have to find a way to get on with our lives, as hard as that may sound.
I was on the same boat as you guys. Like I felt bad for Christian Haydenson, but you know,
Did
it
you
was
just call him Christian Haydenson?
I did or Haydenson. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, first it was Sam Guerrera, now it's Christian
It
Haydenson.
is getting late.
Anyway,
Wasn't Christian Haydenson in Pump Up the Volume?
I wrote one of his names down in my show notes. But like my point was
Oh,
basically
that's
like they can't really reveal Vader's face, I don't think, before Jedi. Like you see his head, kind of the back of his head or whatever in Empire, but when he
well,
finally
we
sees
saw we saw his face in Rebels.
someone,
Not that
yeah,
it's not that it's the same thing, but
I
you
think
did
that
see behind the mask.
I think that might be as big as a shout out as he might get.
You might be right. I don't know if they ever plan on doing a Darth Vader standalone movie, but it again, it wouldn't shock me, and I think if they ever do, that's where you see Hayden Christensen.
I think it would
But
shock
so at
me
this
if they
point,
didn't do a Vader standalone movie at some point.
yeah,
He's that
when you
marketable.
think about yeah, when you think about how yeah, you're right, James. When you think about how everything marketing wise is always revolved around Vader, yeah, it just almost makes too much sense that they would have to have a Darth Vader movie in there at some point.
Wouldn't that be franchise fatigue though, too, in a way?
Yeah, depending on your
Like,
definition, like
Like,
Kyle said, for some people it would be. But I personally, I, always with the asterisks, if done right. But if done right, I could. I don't know if I could have too much Vader. Good Vader stories, I'll eat them up.
well, I guess I'll go slightly dark on this for a second, and maybe it depends on James Earl Jones in the end, because I'm sure there'll be no shortage of people that say you cannot do Vader if you don't have James Earl Jones doing the voice.
10 years ago, I'd agree, but I'd say like right now, Disney's already probably got him speaking, or they've already had him speak into a machine that recorded it, so they can recreate it forever. Like I bet you his voice is now Disney property, or if it's not, they're working on it.
I'm sure also that there's so many impersonators out there as well.
Yeah, with modern technology, I
Yeah, I
just
mean,
think not a problem.
yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Anyway, I think I would be surprised if we never saw a Vader movie. But we'll move along from this, and we'll jump into our next topic, boys. Actually, a quick little thing here. I wrote a blog post on this last week or the week before. I don't even know anymore. And I wanted to get to the bottom of the fascination of why people wanted to see Darth Maul versus Vader in Rebels. And aside from it being cool, like it'd be cool to see those two go at it. But from a story perspective, in my opinion, there's nothing there. But yet, people were really asking for it, and it was head scratching for me. And I think when we had Rob on a couple weeks ago, he had a good point in that once you talk about it publicly, like Dave Filoni did at Celebration, that Darth Maul was originally supposed to die at the hands of Vader in Rebels at the season 2 finale. You open the door for people to ask for that kind of thing, and I don't know if that's the root of this. But it seems like people are asking for Vader versus Maul, and I'm like, why? Like Maul versus Obi-Wan, that's the fight. That is the one that has the meat on the bone, where there's unfinished business between the two. So I think that's the story that needs to be explored. So anyway, I ran a little Twitter poll just to see what would happen, and I guess the majority agree with me. 55% agree that Obi-Wan makes the better adversary for Darth Maul, or Maul now, I guess, in Rebels, whereas Vader got 45% of the vote. So very quickly before we take our break here, what do you guys think?
Oh,
I
definitely,
think,
definitely
yeah, you
Obi-Wan.
definitely Obi-Wan too, but so that's why you won't get that fight until the Obi-Wan standalone,
Yeah, interesting.
and then they can do the other one in Rebels.
Uh, yeah, maybe that's a way to satisfy both, right?
I see Obi-Wan coming back in Rebels to make a cameo. Like Vader and Maul, like I think you would somewhat said something along these lines. Like it's almost like people want to see like two brothers vying for dad's attention. Like I was the first Darth. He liked me first. You know, like see like to compare to have like a to be able to quantify their power, maybe.
That actually, Corey, from a Star Wars perspective, makes a lot of sense because from a storytelling perspective, brothers fighting or siblings fighting just carries a lot more weight. So yeah, I think that's a strong point.
Papa
Yeah,
Palpatine was my papa first.
Yeah,
there's that. But considering it's Maul, it comes from a place of hate and domination, and he just wants to wipe out his enemies, and the Sith are his enemy.
We also know that Obi-Wan's going to get his eventual confrontation with Vader. Like we know that in the back of our minds already too. So
Yeah, how does that tie into this?
basically because like that was kind of like what the question was. No, like Vader versus Maul. But like anyway, fuck now you got me all confused.
No,
Yeah, I was
it
thinking
was
about
the
that earlier. Like basically,
Maul's. We're trying to think of the best villain for the best adversary for Maul in Rebels. And anyways, most people seem to agree that Obi-Wan is the better fit at this point.
yeah, it makes so much more
But
sense.
I agree. It's obviously far from unanimous. But like James said, maybe one is reserved for the live action, and one you can do the other in Rebels, and that's a way to make everybody happy.
I think Ray Park would come back as Maul at this point.
Why not? Have you seen him lately?
Yeah, he looks amazing.
He still looks like exactly in the same fighting shape as he was in um, when he was Darth Maul in Phantom Menace, like almost 20 years ago they filmed that. So
Yeah, he must
I
work
have
out.
no doubt. Yeah, he's a fitness freak, so I have absolutely no doubt that he'd come back as Darth Maul if he was asked.
Back in the day when the prequels came out, I honestly thought that Grievous was Maul at first. In Attack of the Clones, or yeah, it's Attack of the Clones we see him the first time. I was like, oh my god, this must be like the remnants of him. But it
You see,
wasn't
no, you don't see Grievous until Revenge of the Sith.
really.
You see him in the Clone Wars cartoon,
Yeah,
which is set in between, but you don't see him in the movie.
there was also that Samurai Jack animated one there that led up to it. Remember that
Yeah,
one? Those
yeah,
three minute mini episodes. That was pretty intense.
yeah, yeah. I actually not watched them not long ago. They
Jedi
were
Shaggy,
pretty awesome. Jedi Shaggy. Yeah, he got smoked.
big time.
Anyway, so there you go. Obi-Wan is the better adversary for Maul, but Vader would be a cool fight too. Who says he can't have it all? Okay, let's take a break here. Let's hear from our friends over the pond at Talk Star Wars, and we'll come back and we'll talk about our homemade Episode 8 opening crawl brews. I'm excited about this, so stick around, and we're going to be back in just a second.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
we need to record a promo for the podcast. You got any suggestions?
Well, we need to keep it as simple as possible.
That sounds good.
Something like, if you like Star Wars and you listen to podcasts, you should check out the Talk Star Wars podcast on iTunes.
Or we could really motivate people to listen.
What do you have in mind?
Well, you could tell people they should listen to Talk Star Wars, or they will feel the power of a fully armed and operational battle
Well,
station.
no, you can't do that.
Why?
We can't threaten people.
Oh.
Steve's right. Simple is probably best. Like this. I'm Mark.
I'm Stephen,
And I'm Rob.
If you love Star Wars,
and you listen to podcasts,
Then you should check out our show, Talk Star Wars,
you can subscribe to Talk Star Wars on iTunes.
and find us on Stitcher Radio.
and find full episodes of the podcast on our YouTube channel.
You can find the podcast and everything else we do at talkstarwars.co.uk.
And you can play with us on Twitter by following @Talk Star Wars.
You should also head to facebook.com/Talk Star Wars and like our Facebook page. Or we will strike you down with all of our hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
That's not cool.
I've said it now.
Head to talkstarwars.co.uk and join us as we talk Star Wars.
Or else.
And we're back, everybody. It's time for our Episode 8 homemade opening crawls for the upcoming Star Wars sequel. It's only, but I have no idea how many days away it is. I should know. I should be up on these things, but
Rob's going to be very
what
disappointed
do you
in
want?
you.
No, give me a second here. It's currently 501 days away. So hey, when you're listening to this, it'll have cracked the 500 barrier. That's a significant milestone.
Indeed.
Look at that. All right, so guys, did you have any specific methodology to writing this, or was it just let's just stream of consciousness this thing?
Okay, I'll definitely talk a
Uh,
lot about my methodology because I'm not going to talk a lot about my opening crawl because it sucks. But I did have a strategy. So first, I'm sure like you guys, I went through and I looked at all the opening crawls from the first 7 movies, which for some reason on YouTube, 90% of them unavailable to me in Canada. Did you guys have that issue?
I did not look on YouTube, so I don't know, but I would assume that being in Canada, just like you, that I would
Dumb.
have that issue.
Yeah, really annoying. Anyway, so then I found finally on Vimeo or some other host the crawls, and I watched through them, and then I sat there with my pen and started rewriting them, specifically looking at Empire, because I think of all the movies to sort of look at, that's the one to look at. But every time I started to write, because there's no time gap, I just found myself writing plot summaries and not opening crawls. So I had a really hard time finding my angle for stuff they're going to tell us that we didn't see in the movie, which is what I'm sure they're going to do. I'm convinced that the opening crawl will be, while the stuff you saw was going on, this was happening behind the scenes. But I had a really hard time organizing what that's going to be. Corey, what was your approach? Corey, how'd you get started?
Well, I think you're making a very valid point in the sense that I think all of us are going to be along those lines because the first time that a movie's ever started back to back like this, so it is more or less a recap with some add-ons in a way, I guess. Speculation is all you can really do. But yeah, I looked at Empire was my main focus as well, but I read all the opening crawls for the original trilogy, and yeah, I kind of just went from there and banged something out quick, and then well, I wrote jotted down some notes first, and kind of started to rearrange it as to what should go first, and then kind of tried to put it all together after in something cohesive. I'm I'm a little skeptical. Everyone's weary and judgmental on themselves though when they write. So
Yeah, everybody hates their own stuff.
Oh, not me. I usually love my own stuff. No. I seriously though, I enjoy writing things, and usually like once I sit down and pen something out, I look down and at some point I'm happy with at least some of it. But this was like not that experience. I really meh. I think given another week, I could come up with something that I hated slightly less.
and we got to touch on this for 1 second. I can attest to that because James just wrote this amazing rap for his golf tournament, the Golden Beagle, and this guy is a verbal Picasso.
Ah,
He's all over it. Like you have no idea. The whole song just keeps slamming you the whole way through. It's ridiculous,
thanks for the props, Corey.
dude.
Is
It's so
that
good. I showed it to a friend of mine who has no idea who James is, and he was blown away, just blown away.
Thanks, man.
is that video up on YouTube?
It's if you want to see it, I can send you the link, but I've got it set up now,
It's
so people can't find it. I'm premiering it in a couple of weeks, so it's on the down low.
nice.
Yeah.
We'll plug that when it comes out.
Definitely, yeah. It was fun to make.
All right, so who wants to go first here?
Yeah, we
Definitely
gotta
not
draw
me.
straws or something.
Well, it's okay. Okay, how about fine? I wrote two, so I'll do my first one
Okay.
With the title.
with the title. 'Cause remember back in episode 23, I think we talked about titles. Mark at Talk Star Wars had asked us to come up with titles for episode 8. So I just tacked. I'd come up with two. So I just split them up here.
And splice in some background music too.
Yes, sir.
We'll get someone in the
Yeah.
effects department to do that after we record, guys.
Note to self: not putting in spliced music.
Oh, come on.
No, that's a lot of work.
Okay, just for me then.
We'll see. Anyway, here we go. Star Wars Episode 8: The Fury of the First Order. The galaxy is in disarray. With the Republic homeworld of Hosnian Prime destroyed, the evil First Order is poised to impose its will upon thousands of powerless star systems. Seeking revenge for the destruction of Starkiller Base, General Hux has dispatched his army to crush the resistance once and for all. While General Leia Organa and her allies bid farewell to a dear friend, Rey has found Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and is desperate for his help in the battle against impending doom. ...
Dude, that's exactly like mine. In other
It's
words,
mine too. It's
it's really
it's
like that.
exactly mine. No joke. It's crazy. Like some of it's verbatim. You have a camera in my house? That's very good. But we took so much of the same angles. Very very
So, but
similar.
James, are you saying that you hate my opening crawl?
I love your opening crawl. It's like the most
Well, it was
amazing
very
opening
well
crawl
done.
ever.
I liked it a lot. How many words was it?
Yours, that's like 81
Um,
words.
hold on a second. I will. It's 83. So yeah. So what I didn't specifically look at Empire, even though it's a valid point that you guys make that it would probably be tonally the same. I just looked at all of them and I realized that all of them have sort of a between 75 and 88 words in the opening crawl. So I wanted to get into that ballpark, and it was easy enough to stick there. Um, and that was it. And like you said, James, it's sort of a synopsis of what happened in seven, and then just leading you into what's immediately going to happen, uh, or what you're about to see in episode eight. So when I wrote two crawls, I did one under the impression that the opening scene will be a first order attack, either at Han's funeral or um, on the Resistance base. And on the flip side, which I'll read my second crawl later, that one's sort of um, it's a little bit different. We'll get to it then. But all right, who wants to go
Well,
next?
let me just add to yours for a second for a bit because they really are so similar. But something a paragraph I tried to, and I did a 3 paragraph thing. You told me of the word count from you'd mentioned that earlier in the week, so I sort of had the same target as you. Um, but one of the paragraphs or one of the angles I wanted to take that I couldn't get into writing the way I wanted to was a paragraph that said something along the lines of while while Ray traveled to find Luke and Octu, um, this was going on with Snoke and Ren. Like I couldn't find a way to mention that Ren had gone to see Snoke and was completing his training, but I think that they may summarize that in the crawl so that it's happened when the movie opens, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm
It
glad you
does.
mentioned that. We'll get to that. We'll come around to that a couple times before we get to the end of this segment.
Okay.
So, James, go ahead. Hit us with what is essentially a copy of mine.
No, I don't even want to read it. Honestly, it's not as good as yours, and it says the same thing. So I said the same thing about Leia organizing the troops. I said the same thing about impending doom. It's really the same thing. It's. I think Corey should go.
I'll go, but you better. If I read mine, you're reading yours, man. So back in the day, I kind of went with Charge of the Resistance as my title, and I came up with a new one while writing it, and I'm gonna say it's episode 8, Charge of the Resistance or the Lost Hope. Okay. Darkness looms as turmoil spreads throughout the galaxy. With the recent destruction of Starkiller Base, the Hosnium system, and the crippling of the New Republic, 2 remaining factions vie for control. Princess Leia leads a valiant attempt to rally the stars under the banner of the Resistance, as Supreme Leader Snoke and the First Order seize the opportunity to continue their dark pursuit for supremacy and control. A ray of light remains on a forgotten island as a mysterious and powerful young woman has found the galaxy's lost hope, Luke Skywalker. ...
I want to say that I think the title "A Lost Hope" is very strong for a Star Wars movie title. Kyle,
Oof. A lost hope. Yeah, that
it
well, that
plays
would
off a New
to
Hope.
me
It's
that would
it's it's
mean
it's fitting for where this movie's at.
I like the lost. I called it the Lost Hope.
No, the Lost works too. A Lost Hope, the Lost Hope. But I think that's strong.
I think that says bad things for Luke and or
It's
Rey.
also possibly about finding something as well along the way that can lead you, like what Luke's found there. You know.
Well, if Ray were
Sure.
going to
And
go
anyway,
dark in this movie, the Lost Hope or a Lost Hope could that could be an appropriate title.
yes, I'd rather not think about that though. Anyway, Corey, I think you did a really great
Oh,
job there,
thanks, man.
Corey.
I tried. I
It's
tried
very
hard.
flowery.
It came to
Yeah,
91 words.
yeah, no, yours is excellent too. And like again, yours. I never got. The reason I don't want to read mine is because mine's a jumble of like mismanaged paragraphs. I never got mine down to like 80 words, 3 paragraphs of concise sentences. So I have nothing specifically to read. It's just like I wanted to say something about the Republic, or excuse me, the Resistance. I wanted to say something about, and like I said, I think the most important paragraph, or the one that's going to be the most vital, will be the one that catches us up on what was happening off screen while our heroes were gathering on Act Two. I think that's going to be, super important, and I actually think it's where they're going to open the movie, because they traditionally will open in space, and since we know where Rey and Luke are, I guess they could have, they could open in space right above the planet and pan in, but I think they're going to open in space. For some reason, I have this feeling it'll be on Ren's ship, arriving or leaving Snoke's.
How'd you guys like this little double entendre I threw in there? It's kind of cheesy a bit, but I had to put it in there. A ray of light.
Nice, nice. Star Wars likes that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's that.
It should have been a ray of hope,
That's
but I
that
didn't
that
want to use
that.
hope 2 times in the same sentence.
That's a classic Corey. Just throwing a little bit of cheese like that. That's all right though. You gotta be true to
Yeah.
I
yourself,
liked it. I liked it.
especially with these serious exercises.
I took it too seriously. I think that was my problem. Maybe I was too hard on myself, but I could not come up with like. To me, it was like a puzzle, and I couldn't solve it.
It was kind of tough, man. It's really not easy. Like even I was telling Corey earlier today when he was over. The original opening crawl for A New Hope was like a mile long, and it was one of George's famous buddies. I said at the time it was Francis Ford Coppola, but I could be wrong about that. He made George Lucas edit it down, or he may have edited it himself just to help George out. So you can't ask people to read that much at the beginning of the movie. They just you can't, they won't. So shorten that up, and what the final result is what we see. Uh, so even for the guy who wrote the bloody movie, it's not an easy thing to
No, it
do.
wasn't. And I didn't start. I
And
didn't
now
leave
that
it
we
till
have
the
a
last minute
framework,
either. I started this well over a week ago, and spent a little bit of time on it in between. Whenever I'd get stuck doing my other thing, my little project I was working on, I'd come over to this. I'm working on another tile project too, which you guys have seen a couple of. So, anyways, I got 3 things on the go, but I had this, I had notes on this crawl going all over the place, and I couldn't put it together in a way that I liked. That didn't seem like just a cheesy IMDb synopsis entry, and that's what they all sounded like to me. You guys did a much better job than I did.
Really, I
well, I'll pick up the slack here. I've got a second one that I'll just get off. It's very much like the first. It just takes out um, the aspect of the movie opening on Han's funeral. So it's Episode 8, Rise of the First Order. The Republic is in disarray. With the Hosnian system destroyed, the evil First Order is free to impose its will upon the galaxy. Obsessed with revenge, the cruel General Hux has dispatched thousands of his best troops to crush the resistance once and for all. As General Leia Organa and her loyal soldiers prepare for the imminent attack, Rey has found Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and is desperate for his help in the battle to restore peace. Dot dot dot.
Really enjoy. I like how you were true to
That
the opening crawl narrator. Always was a good guy, and judged. It wasn't just a declaration of facts of this side and that. It was the evil First Order. There was always judgment as to what was going on. So,
yeah, it's R2. R2D2 is telling that is the
oh, I didn't
narrator
know
of
that.
that crawl.
You just enlightened me.
the,
Yeah.
the will of the
Um,
force.
so at the end of all things Star Wars, it's R2D2 who's amassed all this knowledge and is telling it back to whoever, the Wills,
It's been
whoever
a
they
hundred
are.
years, no?
And yeah, it's 100 years after Jedi, and R2 is relaying all this info, the whole history of the galaxy back. So we know who survives if we ever get to the 100 years past
And
Return of the
that's what I
Jedi.
love about this
We
series
we
is
know.
like it's the exact same thing for Lord of the Rings. Like the real main character, if you've ever read the story, is Samwise Gamgee. Is really like he's the one telling the story. It's like it's the war through his eyes in a way almost.
Yeah, I can't totally argue with that. I wouldn't. I'd say though it's certainly Lord of the Rings has
He's
like
the one. He's
famously
the one that gets the
lots of
happy ending at the
subplots.
end. Kind of
Yeah, he does.
somewhat.
No, he does. Frodo doesn't get a happy ending. No, Sam does. He lives in Bag End and has a beautiful daughter named Eleanor, and
And it's a son named Frodo.
he's a gardener and a son named Frodo. You're right, and a bunch of other kids too.
Now, James, did you just give us a peek behind the curtain?
Dude, it's funny. That's
It,
no one knew
is
that. And then when I had the kid at the hospital, when I had my first child, Eleanor, uh, at the lakeshore, the doctor, I got right in there. I was really like, I wanted to be involved, so I was like, I asked the doctor, I'm like, as much as possible, if there's no emergency, can I like catch the baby? Can I, whatever, all that stuff. I wanted to do it. She's like, yeah, for sure, scrub in. She was really cool. So she let me like basically go get it and take it out and cut the cord and do all that stuff. And then so when I'm holding the baby, all sort of teary-eyed and emotional, she says, "So what's the baby's name?" I said, "Eleanor." And she goes, "Oh, did you know that's the name of Samwise Gamgee's daughter in Lord of the Rings?" Like completely out of the blue. I was like, I
How
just
cool
started
is that?
I just started bawling. I'm like, "Yeah, I knew that. That's why we picked
How cool! I love nurses. They're such a rare breed. I find that they're such loving, giving
that."
souls,
That was the
so
doctor, but
lovely
yeah,
and like.
no, yeah, for sure.
uh,
It was amazing.
well, for the things that are so unique and like once or twice or three times in a lifetime for us are five
Right.
times a day for them. So it becomes comical and things they laugh
For
about
sure.
in the lunchroom.
For sure.
Whereas for us, it's the most it's life and death.
Yeah. No, it was something. But
So
yes, so
yes,
that's I gave you a peek behind the curtain for sure. It was an easy name to pick because my wife is also a huge Beatles fan. Um, so Lucy, Eleanor, there were a few names that sort of checked that box as well that we liked. But yeah, Eleanor was easy. Yeah.
nice. Ah, there you
Dude,
go.
I got
I
to tell
like
you
that.
this, Kyle. My son's name is Nolan, but if it was a girl, I swear to God, we'd agreed upon Leia, and we didn't know till the day of his birth. So it was like, oh my God, Princess Leia.
That's a good one.
I wonder how many Leias are out there.
I bet you there was a boom like in the mid to late 80s. You could track that. There's name trackers. No, you
It's
could
not
track that.
unreasonable.
I'll look that up for next show. I'm making myself a note.
What about
I'll ha-
Ray? What about Ray for girls?
I bet you there's a boom in that right now.
I would say for sure, kids being born right about now are probably
There's a
getting
few
slapped with
Rays,
Ray.
middle names, and yeah, for sure, different spellings of that name. Yeah, I would agree. My buddy Jay's got two kids, Luke and Ben, and isn't really a Star Wars fan and didn't do it on purpose. And he named his second kid Ben before Force Awakens came out, but coincidentally, he just happens to have like two super solid Star Wars names. He always gets the question, of
Nice.
course, this is Luke, this is Ben. Oh, Star Wars fan? Like I think it's making him like Star Wars less.
So guys, we got a couple of submissions here from listeners about with their
Love
opening
it.
crawls. So here goes. This is from Steven. We hadn't heard from Steven in a long time. So welcome back, Steven. Great to have you back, man. And this is what's impressive about Stevens. He DM'd me on Twitter and said, do I still have time to get in my opening crawl? And I think this was yesterday. I was like, hell yeah! Like if you sent it in while we were recording, I'd put in. And he's like, cool, here, bam. He sent it over, and I was like, what? So I hope, for my sake, I'm being selfish here, that Stephen, I hope you agonized over this a little bit because this is too natural. That seemed too easy. So here goes. Here's Stephen's opening crawl. No title. We left that part out, but here we go. Weeks have passed and Starkiller Base has been destroyed, but the First Order remains. Kylo Ren has since returned to his master, Supreme Leader Snoke, in order to complete his training. General Hux has sent a vengeful Captain Phasma on a mission across the galaxy to find the Resistance and lead a ruthless counterattack. Meanwhile, Rey has arrived at the planet Actu, where she comes face to face with Luke Skywalker in hopes of gaining answers. Dot dot dot.
I really like
Yes.
his point.
Isn't that
That is
awesome?
very awesome. Very similar to ours in other words, but also I like that he got Phasma in there in the sense that we didn't see her in this movie all that much. And I really, Hux is a big player, and she is the one that's going to get dispatched. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I thought that. I'm like, damn it, that's a great way to just get her in
And
because
he got the
like
Kylos,
I,
the
I, I
Snoke thing in there too.
Completely covered
well,
that point that
there's
I
that,
made.
right? So
It's like
there's
as
two
if
things.
he read my mind on that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We'll come back to that. So the two things that Steven did really well is what James said is that nobody, like none of us, had snuck in that Ren was going to complete his training with Snoke, and Steven did that right off the hop, and putting in Captain Phasma because I think we all feel like we were sold a false bill of goods with regards to Captain Phasma in the Force Awakens, but we've been promised that she'll have a much bigger, more badass role in Episode 8, and to stick her in the opening crawl would certainly seem to validate that. So, um, I think Steven did a really
Steven the
good
Yeah,
winning.
job
you
here.
got the whole, you got all kinds in there.
Yeah, well done, sir.
Tip of the
And an
hat.
economical 74 words.
74.
An
So,
economical,
so he'd be the
yeah,
shortest by a word. But he doesn't have a title. Do we
correct.
usually count the title? Oh, well then
No,
shortest by a word.
I have to say, I
There you go.
always, in my writing, I always get way too carried away in like description and stuff. When I read my stuff, I'm like, what can I cut? I'm like, no, nothing.
you should have been an engineer. No, I used to, as a graphic artist, I used to help. Well, I used to put together like technical spec sheets, stuff like that, sell sheets for some software that I was working at, and the engineer would I would help the engineer write the spec sheet, and it would be we had a template that we would use, and by the end when I was going to put his text in, like I ended up having to shrink the font size and compress it and compress it and compress it again. It was illegible. And I said, we have to edit this. Like we don't have the flexibility to go to add a third page to this. It has to be a two pager. That's just the way it works. So get out your jackhammer and edit this thing. Well, I can't. Why not? It's all important. It all has to be there. And that was just like classic engineer talk. Like everything is of dire importance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I got two cousins who are engineers, so I get it. Yeah.
Cool. So we have another submission from our good friend Ads,
Beautiful.
and he,
Ads is king,
yeah, man.
man. Love this guy.
Actually, he's got a couple of them. One's a slightly or very humoristic take. So episode 8, Disciples of the Force. The Resistance, supported by the New Republic, has struck a decisive blow to the heart of the First Order by destroying their super weapon Starkiller base. Meanwhile, on the planet of Actu, the great Jedi Luke Skywalker has been found by Rey. As messenger of General Leia Organa, she's been sent to seek Luke's aid and explore her own connection with the Force. Following the destruction of Starkiller Base, the injured Kylo Ren returns blank planet on the orders of Supreme Leader Snoke, eager to complete his training with him alongside the Knights of Ren. And dot dot dot. So his movie would seem to also lead into Snoke and Ren. So both, which is funny because the three of us, without really having spoken about it before getting started, didn't touch on
Yeah,
that.
I was just we were just
And
saying that with Steven too. Like that was my one crux in this whole thing where I was like, God damn it, I gotta get this in there, but it's so many words and I can't, you know? Even just get the word first order in there was hard for me at a point.
yeah, no, again,
No,
it's
very
tough to
tough.
do. But both Steven and Ads both worked it in.
No, and very well too. The thing is, I couldn't decide in my
Nutty.
mind how long how tell us that Ren's completing his training. So because I couldn't decide if it's going to be, the time frame, I couldn't write something that made sense since I don't know what makes sense to me. I really had a tough time.
And finishing it up here, he's got a funny one. Episode 1, A New Pod. It is a time of great importance in the podcast galaxy. Rival factions compete on a frequent basis to establish a footing in the listener power struggle from across the Commonwealth. The weak are destroyed, their listeners engulfed in the maelstrom. Then from the distant land of Montreal-Oween, a shining hope has been found, one that may bring peace to the podcast galaxy. An alliance called TumblingSabers, forged many years ago, has now gained strength. Led by Kyle Wren and accompanied by his brother Chopper and the mysterious but powerful Thomas of Bombadil, their following has grown. Listeners flock to their airwaves and are rewarded handsomely. However, from the outer rim of the United Kingdom, reports emerge of a threat to their dominance. Amid murmurings of a master and 2 apprentices known collectively as TSW, the Tumbling Sabers look to the bounty hunter, Expedia, as a solution to their ever-increasing danger. I have to confess, I never really read
This is
the whole
amazing.
thing because I wanted I wanted to save like the reaction. I didn't want to get to the end of it, and then
Expedia is a good bounty hunter name.
bounty hunter.
Yeah, seriously.
Awesome.
Oh
Oh,
man.
dude, that was so good though. That was so good.
Oh, ads well
Yeah,
played, man. That's a right there, Fred,
That
right
was
in Mark's
amazing.
grill.
yeah. The
Oh,
Commonwealth
jeez.
is growing, man. I even put that as a part of my like Twitter profile thing now, like with the hashtag. Like I'm proud of that. We're a Commonwealth, man.
Oh, it's a thing. You're gonna be walking by, you're gonna hear someone mention it, and you're gonna be like, "We started that Commonwealth. That's us." It's a thing.
I need T-shirts.
Yeah, we have to pull in somebody from Australia or New Zealand.
I'm
Criminals.
totally buying
That's it.
TSW. TSW is selling T-shirts now, man.
Um,
To-
you know what we need? We should actually actively explore looking into podcasts in the rest of the Commonwealth and just see if we can get a couple of shout outs across. Because it's why not? It's a funny thing. Why not promote each other?
For sure.
Yeah, no, I mean that's as a podcasting community, we
Yeah,
definitely
for
should be
sure.
helping each other.
That'd be really fun.
And we do.
That's why.
That's part of the fun for sure. Like you guys all know, I was never all up in this stuff, and I just found it so fun so far. Like there's a lot of fan interaction and like just a lot of camaraderie. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Well, guys, ads,
Oh,
Steve,
yeah, that
thanks,
was really
guys.
good. Ads, well done on
Yeah,
the.
you guys
You might
rock.
have passed 80 words though. Might have been 81 or so, but still great.
If you want to know, it's 97. A little on
Oh
the
no,
high end,
needed
but
it.
that's
Needed
okay.
That's so
everyone.
good.
And I'm not going to do a count for the funny one because they're all
And
funny.
regardless, either way, at Expedia, I've listened to the podcast and they may or may not get their money back. Like I'm still anxiously awaiting to hear the verdict, but
No, they got
still, either
solved. Did you
way,
listen to the most recent? They went. The boys went right to the CEO. Somebody found the CEO's contact and like went right to the top and then got like serious action. The next day. They're getting a refund. They're getting money for their trouble. They're getting it sorted out.
but I think Steven said like I'll believe it when it's like actually in my hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. They hadn't received the check yet, so I mean, there's still some developments to be had. But it's from what I understand, they're good.
Good.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, I mean, if it came from the CEO, it's it's not like it came from the director of marketing who can afford to sit on his hands. Like the buck doesn't stop with him. With the CEO,
No,
it's
that's
his
it.
rule. And if he says they're getting
No,
money,
that's it
they're getting
exactly.
money.
I'm sure there was enough rabble
Yeah,
about it too.
I'm
Like I complained quite a bit on Twitter, and usually I don't tweet all that much, but I was like, screw that, man. Like I'd have been so upset as well. Like you know how long those guys plan that? Like
No, to have your trip that you've been planning for and super excited about to have it ruined like that, it's completely unacceptable. Completely. So I'm like a full week behind on my podcasts because you would think that being off for a week would let me catch up, but that's not the way it
Well, to be
works
fair, you
for
were
me. So
unplugged too.
I
You were
catch up at
camping and
work.
stuff, so that doesn't help.
Yeah, I just tried to not just have a complete change of pace for 1 week anyway. So I'm gonna have some heavy lifting to do once I get back to the office tomorrow, as sadly my vacation is over. We're gonna do our random thoughts again next week. We're gonna let people off the hook, including ourselves. Um, I don't think we want to do another 2+ hour show right off the hop here in August. But Corey has one more thing he wants to talk about episode 8 and Carrie Fisher and her reveal at Celebration about Han's potential funeral. Blah 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 blah. So Corey, why don't you get something off your chest?
Okay, so back in not too long ago, we heard something along the lines of Leia saying that she was at Carrie Han Solo's funeral, right? This could also be a mass funeral for the Hosnian system. So also earlier on, we saw leaked photos that look like police officers in a way, or some kind of form of authority. And if we were to translate the letters through the Orabesh, it came out to CPPD. So, I mean, it could be Coruscant, but I really think maybe we'll actually get to go to Corellia for once. And that's the police force guarding everyone. And this could also be the venue where an attack takes place on from the First Order upon the remaining resistance and supporters and whatnot. It can also be the place where, to me, it looked like from those leaked photos as well that Finn was on the lam, and he could have been there at that funeral. And you know, it could also be the place where Leia uses her Force ability in this attack. So I think that's could be a good scene to the movie. Like I see it happening, and that's I'm putting my money on it at this point from what we heard.
So you're saying that Carrie Fisher was talking about Han's funeral as the opening scene on Corellia for episode 8 and is also the site of the First Order
Not
attack.
the opening scenes of the movie, but the like the introduction to those characters at the maybe not even the introduction, but basically at one point there's a funeral and they're all there. Everyone, all these big players are amassed. Like we've seen pictures of this, where everyone's dressed up in suits and in black, which kind of makes it kind of look like a funeral. And then she kind of confirmed it. And we've also heard rumors of an attack where she has to use the force to save herself.
Yeah, we'll see. So obviously we have no clue, but you heard it here first if that comes true. So your big takeaway here is that they might be on Corellia, which would be a first in Star Wars films.
That and it being the center for all this like action on the other side of the fence, not Luke and Ray's storyline.
Right. Okay, well, hey, you feel better now? You got that
Yeah,
off your chest?
good to go.
Cool. One last quick little hit here, guys. I know it's a question that we've wanted to get to for a while here. But if you were a Padawan in the Star Wars galaxy, who would be your master? James, you've been quiet over there. Hopefully you're
Qui-Gon,
still awake.
no hesitation.
Wow,
Good answer.
great answer.
That's a good
Very good
answer.
answer.
Um,
I,
elaborate.
I think to go back to something you said last week, I think he was a bit ahead of his time in terms of how he saw the Force and the Force's role, the light side's role and the dark side's role playing out. I think he was like, I don't know, like a hippie Jedi. Like I can't think of a person specifically to compare him to. Oh yes, I can. Steve Jobs. I think he was like the Steve Jobs of Jedi. Like
That's awesome.
and yeah, I don't know. I just think it would be different
Uh, d-
being his Padawan, just because I think you'd get a perspective that you didn't get from anyone else. And Yoda's the easy answer, so I wanted to go with someone other than Yoda.
I think everybody runs through Yoda
Yeah, exactly.
as a
That's what I was
youngling.
gonna say. Every Yoda's everybody's master at one point.
Yeah, everybody gets a dose of Yoda, but I see what you mean, James. Like Qui-Gon is the free thinker, ahead of his time, and not afraid to disrupt the
Right.
status quo, old
Yeah.
tradition, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
And I really, really enjoyed Liam Neeson as a Jedi. So that affects my decision too, because he's just one of my favorites on screen.
And there's something about his presence too, right? Like you feel like you feel like you're going to be taken care of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like even though he might hang you out to dry here and there, he's not doing it because he doesn't care. He thinks that there'd be a reason for everything he does.
Yeah. I think his story was shortened, so sort of like the Boba Fett effect. What you imagine is so much more than what would have really happened. So I just think, you know, my imagination's run off and created this really cool uh, image of this guy. So yeah, that's my choice for sure.
And I don't know if this is still canon too, but like supposedly he's the one who started the whole Force Ghost thing, which I'm pretty sure is still canon.
Well, very cool.
Yeah, it is. He's the first one that we learn of that had crossed over. And he was also the first guy to talk about the living force and the cosmic force and all these different versions of the force. They were all explained through him, and he explained midi chlorians to us. So it makes perfect sense that this is the first guy to find a way to extend his life beyond the protein form. Corey, who's your master?
I had a hard time thinking about it too. Like James pretty much nailed it too. He was like pretty much top of the list for me. Obi-Wan was up there as well because after having watched the Clone Wars, like he's a pretty good master as well. He's very understanding. Lets Anakin slide quite a bit, maybe too much. Now watching Rebels as well, Kanan's right up there. Kit Fisto just seems like a perfect fit for me, to be honest. But I have to go with Kanan. You know, Kit Fisto, he looks like this super laid back, like
Basically, Corey wants the boss that's going to let him off an hour early.
no, Kanan. Since Kanan's become a Jedi, I'm sure he's put Ezra through the ringer
No, you're right. He has not been
I
easy
think
on
Obi-Wan
Ezra.
might be
himself.
the easy
But
one.
Kit Fisto, yeah, I feel like Obi-Wan. Come on, what do you say we just come on, let's
Let's
head
have a
over to the
pint.
pub. It's Friday. It's 4 o'clock. What's going to happen if it's an hour left in the
Kit
day?
Fisto might be like, let's go listen to some reggae, man. Let's do this.
Yeah, that's the guy you want. That's the guy who's going to be like, yeah, go home, take the day off.
It's not necessarily what I want, but I just think he just looks like a cool dude, like a very understanding, like you know, not a prick.
Not a prick.
That was worth the dead air. That was awesome. Great comment.
I thought Carl was gonna pick it up there. I was like, okay, I gotta finish this one.
Well, you're yeah. I gotta let you hang with that one for a bit. Um, so my first reaction was also to go with Qui-Gon. Um, for all the reasons James mentioned, just he seemed to have forged he forged definitely forged his own path, and plus he's also a guy who was under the wing of Count Dooku, who himself was a bit of a maverick, a lot of a maverick that eventually fell to the dark side. But uh, as cool as Qui-Gon is, I'm gonna pick somebody else. I went with Shakti in the end. And we don't know much about her, which is part of the attraction for me because I can make it up in my own mind. But I feel like she's also a bit of a free thinker and not necessarily somebody who's just so steeped in the old Jedi ways that she can't think her way out of a situation without falling back on the old doctrine stuff. So she was my pick, and also without she's the closest thing to Ahsoka without choosing Ahsoka. Same species and everything. And I think I'd just be like fascinated looking at her every day.
That's kind of cool.
It'd be like having a nice car.
That's good reasoning. I mean, you know, I wasn't even
Absolutely.
sure. I wasn't sure who she was at first, but then you explained it to me, and I think I have an idea now.
Yeah, we don't see a
Well, you
whole
know
lot
that.
of her. You see a lot more of her in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, which we mentioned earlier in the show, and in Clone Wars, but you don't see a lot of her in the
Well, if I
actual
would have thought of
films.
it your way, I may have sort of tried to go into the future and taken Rey as my Jedi Master. Because
I wasn't saying that I have a
what's
crush
the
on
what's the
Shakti. I just
what's
think
the
that
line from A Few Good Men? There's nothing like getting a BJ from a woman you have to salute in the morning. Can I say that on our show? Oh, I just did.
you just did. Do I have to
You
tag this
probably I
as
said
explicit now?
BJ. Well, no, I said it again, but I specifically chose letters, so I don't know how that works for the thing. You might have to look that up. I'm sorry.
No apologies needed. But we are going to end the show there, I think, unless you guys have anything anything left over to say.
No, I think I ended it pretty good there.
Okay, that is the end of the show, folks. Thanks again for listening to episode 35 of the Tumbling Saber podcast. As always, we appreciate whatever it is, 1 hour, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We appreciate every single minute you give us. And if you appreciate what we do, head over to iTunes, leave us a review, and we will love you forever and ever. Corey, James, thanks again, guys.
Always fun, Kyle. Had a good time, Corey.
Yeah, good crawls.
Anyway, guys, check us out on we're all over the place now. We're on Twitter. All three of us are out there at TumblingSaber, at Chop Rules, at Tommy Bombadil1. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're now on YouTube, and of course the blog, which I encourage you to check out and sign up for our mailing list. We also have a mailing list that whenever I feel the need to send out a newsletter, I do that, and I would do it more often if you were part of that mailing list. So check that out. And until episode 36, guys, have yourselves a good week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Watching, listening, every moment, wanting all of you. And I believe I can save you. Just don't let me go. And I can see I'll be waiting, always waiting. Just don't let me go. Just don't let me go. Time goes on and I'm questioning all the things I've seen, crazy things I've seen as I'm watching you. I'm watching you walking away from me.